A very warm good morning to one and all. We would like to extend a hearty welcome to the second day of Professor N.D. George and Chevalier Professor N.A. Ouseph Memorial International Conference on ELT, organized by Research and PG Department of English, St. Thomas College Autonomous Thrissur, and Santom Institute of Indian and Foreign Languages in collaboration with ELT International Chapter, Sultanate of Oman.
As we begin, let me call upon Ms. Sriranjani S. Babu, third year BA English and History student, to lead us in prayer.
I pray you'll be our eyes and watch us where we go, and help us to be wise in times when we don't know. Let this be our prayer when we lose our way. Lead us to a place, guide us with your grace, to a place where we'll be safe.
Thank you, Sriranjani. Next, we are moving to the fourth session of our International Conference on ELT, which is on the topic, the 21st Century English Teacher and Conscious Communication.
And now, it's time to invite our resource person, Dr. M. Mary Jayanti. We request Dr. Christina T. George to introduce the resource speaker of the session.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the second day of the two-day International Conference on Transformative Practices, Challenges and Opportunities in Teaching English Language and Literature. Yesterday, we had 3 wonderful sessions on English language teaching and how to navigate the digital divide. Today, we have scheduled 4 different sessions for the benefit of our participants. Our first session is to be steered by Dr. Mary Jayanti. Dr. Jayanti will speak on the 21st century English teacher and conscious communication. Let me take this opportunity to extend our warmest welcome to Dr. Mary Jayanti, who has agreed to come down to Thrissur and to be part of this conference. Welcome, ma'am, to St. Thomas. To know more about Dr. Jayanti, I would like to read a short bio of Dr. Jayanti. She is an Associate Professor of English and the Dean of International Affairs, Holy Cross College, Tiruchirappalli. She is also a leadership trainer, teacher mentor, creative writer, and public speaker. She has made significant contributions in responsibilities held as a former Vice Principal, Dean of Student Affairs, Fine Arts Coordinator, and editor of the college magazine, Holyrood. She was a member of the steering committee for the 4th cycle NAC accreditation team visit for her college in February 2020. She was also the member of the centenary core organizing team of the college for the centenary celebrations and directed the HCC's 100-year journey titled Yadumagai Nindraini, a spectacular light and sound show. Dr. Jayanti has a teaching career of 20 years and loves to work for first-generation learners and regionally backward students. Her subjects of interest include Canadian literature, creative writing, Indian writing in English, voices of women in literature, communicative English, interpersonal and intrapersonal communication, group dynamics, and personality development. As a researcher in English and literature, Dr. Jayanti has 33 research articles published in national, international, referred, and UGC-approved journals, Scopus, and Web of Science. She has guided 6 PhD candidates and presently is guiding 4 others. Dr. Jayanti has published 2 books, a critical non-fiction Text and Context, a new historicist approach by Author Press Delhi in 2022, and an anthology of poems titled Sketches from the Pages of My Diary by the Reliance Publishing House, Delhi, 2008. She is also a member of the AIA CHE's institution. Dr. Jayanti led the content creation team for the project Soft Skill Training to strengthen police performance, initiated Commonwealth Educational Media Center for Asia, New Delhi, in 2020. So it's a very it's very fortunate that we were able to procure her willingness to be part of our conference. So I wholeheartedly extend a warm welcome to Dr. Jayanti. I also welcome our expert, Dr. Justin James, over to the second day at St. Thomas. I am also happy to have the strong pillars of our department, our HOD, Dr. Anu Paul, and the coordinators, Dr. M.J. Viju and Dr. Flurjan Anthony, who had been doing great research and great team support to have these 2 days of conference out here at St. Thomas. So thank you all for being here at St. Thomas. I invite you for intellectual deliberations on English language teaching. Thank you.
A warm good morning to the wonderful people of God's own country, and it gives me great joy and pleasure to be here this morning at St. Thomas College, Thrissur, and a warm note of gratitude to Dr. Justin James, who is a great networker of resources and people, and he's one of the primary reasons why I'm here. Thank you very much, sir. And it gives me a lot of pleasure to be a part of Professor N.D. George and Professor N.A. Ouseph Memorial International Conference on ELT titled Transformative Practices, Challenges, Opportunities in Teaching English Language and Literature. A warm note of thanks and acknowledgement also to the Principal, Reverend Dr. Martin, and the HOD, Dr. Anu Paul, and the management of St. Thomas College for organizing this international conference, and great appreciation to the organizing team coordinators, Dr. Viju, who was in constant touch to coordinate this event, and also Dr. Flurjan Anthony. I had a wonderful interaction with him this morning as well, and we hope to collaborate at various levels. And a special note of thanks to the entire organizing team, Mr. Biju, Mr. Bibin Joseph, Dr. Christina Jose, Dr. Shyam Sudhakar, Dr. Father Sushant Paul, and Mr. Jasmine Saju. I know it takes a lot of work to organize an international conference of this magnitude. So, throwing light on today's session, the 21st century teacher and conscious communication. A teacher affects eternity, and you may never know when he or he stops influencing a student. The focus of today's session is, what is the meaning and role of a 21st century teacher, especially in teaching English and literature? I understand there are groups of teachers, scholars, to-be teachers here, and this focus the focus of this session will help us to see how we can enable our classrooms both in teaching learning process. The classrooms today are not the same. I'm sure both the teachers and the students will agree with me. post-COVID, there's been a lot of changes in the attention span. In our teaching modalities, we've moved from the face-to-face teaching methods to online, synchronous, asynchronous, blended learning. So the modalities have also changed. So in this context, what is the role of a 21st century teacher, and how effectively can a teacher use conscious communication to empower the students' attitude in a classroom? This can be both for the teachers and also for the students. When I say conscious communication, it is mindfully and intentionally using empowering words, encouraging words, words that build and that do not break, words that are not limiting. In simple words, it is to use the do language rather than the don't language. For example, psychology says that every child has an inner pilot. To understand this, a child, when it is born, nobody tutors the child. The child knows when it is hungry, it has to get the mother's milk. When it's almost 3 months old, it will topple itself. It doesn't go for any coaching classes. It has the inner genius, right? And when it is around 8 to 10 months, it starts to crawl, it starts to walk. So what happens is there is an inner pilot, inner genius in every child. Both you and I have grown in that way. But over a period of time, we are always exposed to what we call as limiting language or the don't language. If you see, the language that's spoken to a child is always, it's like, don't do this, don't take it, don't break it. So the don't conditions the mind of a child as the child grows up. So when this happens, there is a limitation in the way the child can perform, and it has its own doubts. And when students come to our classroom, when we grow as teachers, we focus on the don'ts of life. And this session is to draw our attention how to re-script our everyday narration, everyday conversation in the classroom, interpersonal and intrapersonal. Intrapersonal is what we tell ourselves, because what we tell ourselves and what we tell others matters a lot. So how to re-script from don't language to the do language will be the focus. There are two concepts. One is the 21st century teacher, where the teacher has to know the multimodalities and engage the Gen Z students. Students in the classroom belong to Gen Z, who are born after 1990s, 95, 2000, the millennials, who are very quick, smart, they are very intelligent. At the same time, they are emotionally fragile. They have their own challenges. So how to handle such students? I hope I've made my focus very clear here. So the objective is, in a classroom, we transfer attitude, skill, and knowledge, the ask, right? So this session's focus will be on how to empower the attitude of students. The focus here is understand the need for a paradigm shift in classroom communication, or we call it as classroom management, focusing on John Hattie's technique of visible learning, and also to practice positive intrapersonal and interpersonal communication, whereby it has positive learning engagement. I would like to give a reference from Tamil Nannul. Tamil Nannul talks about 8 kinds of students. Some students are like soil. Tamil man, they'll tell man. I'm sure you'll also understand it in Malayalam. Okay, those students are students who will learn only with attention, because you can't leave a soil unattended. You'll have to water it. You'll have to weed it out. You'll have to manure it. These students learn best only when they are attended to. The second kind of students are like pot with a hole. The pot is full only when it is filled. Once the teacher, when the teacher is there, the students are so excited, they are happy about the learning. When the teacher leaves, what happens is the learning also drains away. And there are some kind of students who are like tea filter. What does a tea filter do? The tea filter will hold the remnants, the unwanted, and lets go of the essence. So if we are listening to something where there is a story or an analogy that is connected to a concept, there's a kind of a selective listening where we understand or we focus on the story and forget the concept. That kind of selective listening also can happen. And some kind of students are like parrot learners. When I say students, it is not limited only to the students. Learners at any age. Even I am a learner at this age, although I am a teacher. So what happens? A parrot only repeats, learns by repetition, and only repetition. If there is no full stop there, the student or the learner also will not have a full stop. So it is a part of rote memory learning. And some students are like goat. Goats will feed on the leaves that are seen and easy. They don't delve into or work hard to get a better feed. So there are kind of learners who last minute, they come, just find out, okay, what is there in the text? Somebody tells them, this is the focus. Okay, and what happens? Okay, I'll manage. Maybe the friend was generous. The friend had taught 2 lines. The student is very creative. He or she goes and writes almost 2 pages. And sometimes the student gets better marks than the one who had taught. It can happen, right? So these are shallow learners. And some kind of students are like buffalo. Buffaloes do not have a sense of purpose. Okay, we know, right? Even when we scold someone, we'll say, don't you understand? Why are you standing like a buffalo, right? They obstruct learning, they distract learning, they draw attention, they are confused. And some kind of students are like cow. Cow, they chew the cud, they ruminate. So these are the kind of students and learners. They reflect on what is being taught. They are the ones who come back and ask, I have a question, I have a suggestion, I read something on this. And if you are a teacher or you are a peer learner, you're very happy. You feel, okay, something has been done and it has reached the learner. And the last kind of student is like the mythical swan. In Tamil, they call the person as Annapakshi. Annapakshi is the one who is able to separate water from milk. Evaluative learners. They take in what is necessary only. They know what they need. They are very evaluative. So when you have different kind of learners, and we all will belong to one category. Somewhere we will belong to one category. And one method of teaching or learning does not happen in the classroom. We need to have multi-modalities of teaching and learning. Here is a quiz for you. I would like you to answer. Now, after the conference, there's going to be a group photograph. After the group photograph is shared, who will be the first person you look at in the photograph? Yes, we will look at ourselves. We'll zoom and we'll see, oh my God, my hair should have been like this. I should have opened my eyes. When I closed my eyes, they took the picture. You understand that, right? And even if it's going to be a family photograph, you're standing next to your mother, father, or if you're married next to your husband, wife, your children, even then we will look at ourselves. That's how Dale Carnegie says, that's how our mind is engineered. Our mind is engineered to focus on what we need. That is what happens to every learner also. So what happens is, every day after we finish college, when we go back, we think all the learners go home or to the hostel. They don't go home or to the hostel. They go somewhere. You know where? To the social media. To the social media. They live on social media and they come back. That's the 21st century routine, mostly, 90%. Why do you think all of us connect on social media? It is for connections. We want to reach out for connections. So that being the case, coming to the class, it is important that there are some connections, professional connections that can engage the learning. So here, there is a question for us to reflect. So is there a need for a paradigm shift in the classroom communication? Meaning to say paradigm is a model in which we follow. A model, a set type pattern that we are used to follow every time. Okay? Is there a need for it? I'm sure we need to change from one modality of learning and teaching to multiple modalities. I will tell you the reason. We know in the year 2020, almost 1.8 billion students, 65 million teachers, and 186 countries went into an unprecedented lockdown. Yes, and we had to restart our classrooms with resilience and rebuild our classrooms because there have been altered learning patterns. Altered learning patterns because students were, for the first time, they had to do some online courses, online classes, and for teachers also. It was not there in the history of education. We've never had this kind of an precedence where there is no emotional connect in the online classes, because we never knew whether people were there on the other side listening. Was it the student or the student's parents who were attending the classes? All these things were happening. So we had vastly, students' emotional capacities had undergone a change. And in psychology today, we have Nick Morgan, who says that we have had an information overload over a period of time. In the past 4 years, since we've moved online, there is an information overload. Although we do not have direct research on whether the attention span has changed, what is there is emotional fatigue and exhaustion has been happening. That is why our listening capacities are not more than 20 or 30 minutes. And if you see, the interest that we have is, when you look at a mobile, we don't even have time to look at videos. What do we enjoy watching? We enjoy watching scrolls and reels. This is the time that we can listen to something. So there are altered attention patterns. When there are altered attention patterns, what does a teacher in a classroom do for a 50 minutes? In 50 minutes, how many reels a student could have watched? Yes? So that is the kind of energy learners will have. So it is important that learners become co-creators of the learning process, the teaching learning process. This is very important. And John Hattie says, every student deserves a great teacher, not by chance, but by design. John Hattie is an Australian educational researcher who's done around 1,500 research findings on what makes a classroom effective. So he has brought out his research findings in a book called Visible Learning Plus, and he states that engaging the learners in the teaching learning process in the classroom is one way that can be very effective, because the Gen Z or the millennial generation, they are an instant generation who are into the millennial melting pot. Millennial melting pot is, we prefer instant coffee to filter coffee. We prefer instant junk food to a full-time meal. We prefer short reels and reads to a full-time novella. When there is a big change, what happens is, how does a teacher make a 50-minute classroom engaging? And how does a learner participate in a 50-minute classroom? The answer is very simple. Enable self-expression. So we have what is known as a teacher talking time, the TTT, right? The teacher talking time in 50 minutes has to be reduced so that the role of a teacher moves from a sage on stage, where this is a sage on stage kind of a situation, where in that given 1 hour, mostly the speaker speaks, right? And even in between, if you see, there are certain questions for the audience to be engaged. And we'll have to move to what is called as guide on the side. Guide on the side is, activities are given, learning is processed with peer learning and student engagement, so that the teacher teaches the students how to think and not just what to think. That is the shift from sage on stage to guide by the side. That's moving from the pedagogical method to the andragogical method. And this is proved by John Hattie in one of his research findings. He calls it as a D-size experiment, where teachers who were engaged with sage on stage, right, where the teachers are only speaking and the students or the learners or the listeners or the participants are only engaged in listening, the typical effect of the lecture or the knowledge transformation is very, very low. You can see the scale there. Wherein, when a teacher has engaged or the speaker has engaged in being the guide by the side, where the participants are also co-creators of learning, what has happened is the effect of the message or the knowledge is typically high. There is a high impact, so there is a kind of an authentic communication that happens, and there is also teacher clarity and professional development. John Hattie also speaks, what does a 21st century teacher do? He states about 5 qualities of an expert teacher and an experienced excellent teacher. An expert or an experienced teacher can handle a 21st century classroom where the teacher is able to identify the order in which the content can be given. It will be like it starts with an evocation and then it moves to a kind of a input. We have a strategy called as a 10+2 formula. It's an instructional methodology where the teacher or the learner will be engaged in 10 minutes of input and 2 minutes of interaction. So if you see, it is punctuated with either a question and answer, or the speaker draws attention to the board or the PowerPoint where there is a picture and there is a reflection, or there could be a kind of a group learning, peer learning, so that the teacher is able to identify in which order the method of content can be given. And the second one is to create an optimal classroom communication, meaning to say the speaker or the teacher will be able to create a kind of, it's okay to make mistakes, but do try. Please do try. Okay, that trust is built, and that is also possible with developing conscious communication, which we will have it in the second half of the lecture. And the teacher is also able to monitor and give individual feedback, however there is a number. The teacher will be able to find out how each student progresses, not with any comparison with other learners, but with the individuals themselves. Next is the teacher believes that all students can reach the success criteria. For all students, it is possible to be their excellent learning self. It is not that there is just one group of students who will be doing and the other students cannot do. The teacher has a very neutral attitude towards it. And the last point is the teacher influences the students not just based on the marking system, but on an overall holistic development, wherein the teacher is able to identify the strength of the students, the areas where they have to develop. The teacher will be able to create connections in the classroom. Now, I just want you to look at this. I'm sure you all had your breakfast. Yes? Okay. Can you tell me what this picture is about? What picture is this? Yes? It's a food app. It could be Swiggy or Zomato, right? Okay. And what is this? A fashion app where you can buy clothes online. Can you just let me know what is that one common point that a user will experience using these two? Any one common point? Yes? What is the experience of the user when he or she uses this? You have choices, yes? You have choices. Then the same is true of this. What is this? This is the YouTube app, right? And here, this is your mobile phones. Yes? In all these places, who makes the choice? We make the choice. Yes? We make the choice, and there are choices and options. So this is the world in which the Gen Z learners are. And when there are choices and options in every part of their life, the classroom also will have to give space for choices and options. Only then a 21st century teacher becomes relevant. So how do you do that? Engaging them in the teaching learning process, meaning to say, for example, if I have to do a poem and also I have to do a prose, right? I have my schedule, I have my timetable, I have to finish everything. But then when the teacher is able to just for 1 minute ask, today I have this poem and I have this prose piece, which one would you like to begin with? The class will be divided. Some will say poem, some will say prose. But there you can make a choice. You can see the majority have told poem. Let me begin with the poem and we will follow it with the prose. It is that conscious communication wherein the learner gets to be a part of the decision making. And this is also engaging them because we understand they belong to this world and not to our world. So I hope there is a point here. And also the methodologies that you have. So I have divided the methodologies which can be used in a classroom. I've divided it into student-centric and peer learning. You have a variety of things. I will just throw light on a few things. Of course, you have the classic chalk and talk, then the picturesque PowerPoints, and learning through evocation, demonstration, poster reading, analogy. As I told you, your 10+2 lecture inputs. Although it's a 50-minute session or a 60-minute session, after every 10 minutes, if you can have a space for the students' engagement where they respond either by answering a question or reflecting about something that you've told, you speak about it to your friends, there is a peer learning. In that way, the attention span is re-energized. Apart from that, you have classroom discussion. Then also you have expeditionary learning and also game-based learning. Simple things like dumb charades. I've used it in class to teach them idioms and phrases, some definitions of figures of speech. That has come out really well. They learn even the toughest things because they are part of the learning process. And also use of flashcards, audio readings and speeches. For example, if I have to start a poem by Maya Angelou, we have the mobile phone, so I bring to class a conversation or an interaction or a reading of Maya Angelou. I ask them to listen, I ask them to identify, or I send it to them earlier, or I ask them to follow it up with that. So you bring a kind of a real environment of learning which can make it more engaging. Apart from that, you can have YouTube video lessons, storytelling, and jigsaw method also. And in peer learning, we have coffee house seminars. This is great for an English literature classroom. Either we are teaching poetry, literary criticism, prose, to which period they belong to. For example, we are teaching about the Victorian age. So each of the student, maybe a group of 5 students can be taken. Each of them could impersonate one of the Victorian age writer, and they could be dressed, and we call it as a coffee house seminar because it is based on the 18th century coffee houses of Britain and London, where writers used to meet over a cup of coffee and tea and speak about their writings. So when we are able to recreate that in the classroom, each of them becomes a writer. They come and speak, impersonate the writer and speak about their writings, and there will be a second round where they question each other about each other's writing. The content is given wherein they work on it, they are more participative. So everything has a kind of an explanation. Pair and share talks, role play, panel discussion, soliloquy. Sometimes I give poems and ask them to dramatize it as a soliloquy. So that is perfect for them. And also I ask them to write asides, which is one of Shakespeare's technique also. And you also have debates. We can have literary mock festivals. They can write, they can release a book in the class and they can read out a poem. The poet can be interviewed, the writer can be interviewed in the class, all these things. So there's a whole lot of methods that can keep the learner's engagement alive. And here I would like to say it is not that every class has to be like that. Let's be very practical because of the schedule that we have, the syllabus that we have, the learner engagements are varied. It is like making biryani and adding a pinch of salt to it. These methods are add it when it is needed. It will lift the taste of the classroom. That is the menu card for the different teaching methodologies. So in doing so, there will be a paradigm shift from students and learners glued to the mobiles to participative learners, where they are more engaged because they are part of the learning environment. And even here, from this heads down to heads up with ideas that they become very, very, very creative. Once they are given, they're far more creative than what the teacher can do. So that brings to the conclusion my first part of my lecture, which is on being a 21st century teacher, where the teacher is able to identify, monitor, believe in the success of the student, give options, and create connections in the classroom. I move to the second part. My second part is focus on conscious communication. When I say conscious communication, it is the power of words and thoughts that can make and break minds. It's very simple, and it is not a kind of a motivational statement. There is a research-based evidence where once they were, during the Second World War, you had war criminals. War criminals are spies of a country who get caught in the enemy country. So what happens to war criminals? I think there are some movies also. Once a spy of a country is caught in another country, they are put to death, right? So there was a spy, and it was his day of death. And this spy had a very good way of connecting even with the enemy military. So they had a soft corner for him, and they came and told, today is the day that you're going to die. Right? Although we don't have an option to cancel this, we want to give you a choice. Usually the death is very painful, meaning to say they were given lethal injections or poisonous injections, which when injected would always create pain, and the person will writhe in pain and die. Okay, otherwise they will be executed by hanging, and there were other methods that were painful, right? So here we have an option. This is going to be a painless death. Let us demonstrate it. How do we do that? We will inject an IV. The IV injection that's given when you had to give glucose, right? That will be injected, and that will be connected to a bottle. And there will be an ECG monitor to check your heart rate also. And once your blood is collected from your body, what happens is you will have your natural death, but that will be painless. This military man, this spy, he's going to die. Whatever it is, he says yes. Okay, the time comes, an IV is injected, and then the ECG monitor is attached, and then they blindfold him. And after 2 minutes, the officials leave the room. He's under monitor of the camera. What they saw was, after 2-3 minutes, there is the first drop of blood that gets into the bottle. So you get that sound, no? Chut, chut, chut. You get that sound, right? Once he hears the sound of blood, he realizes that blood is being collected from his body and he's going to die. And he starts perspiring, and his heart rate increases. That is seen in the monitor. Fine? And in 3 hours' time, the monitor becomes lull because the blood is taken away, and what happens is he dies. This case is presented in a war and criminology conference where the officials come and present this case. The officials say everything is true to the moment, till the moment we blindfolded him. And we want to make a statement that the blood that was collected in the bottle not one drop was from his body. It was from another packet of blood. That blood was connected, and the sound that he heard was not from the blood that was collected from his body. We did not kill him. His thought that he would die killed him. Thoughts are so powerful. What we think, what we speak, what we do create our life. So that was the statement that the officials presented. So how words can always empower us is what we can see here. If it is okay with you, can you see there are two words, disempowering set of words, and there will be another empowering set of words. If I can see there are a lot of students also. If you would like to participate, you can just read the words aloud if you want to and get the feel of the words. The set of words that are there, difficult. Can you just see the words? Is it visible? Yeah? Yes? If you can just read it aloud, don't worry about others. If people are sleeping, no worries. If you are awake, you can read. All those are awake alone can read. Can you read that? Difficult? Yeah? Feel the words. If you say difficult, are you happy? Difficult. Is it like that? How do we say that word? Difficult. Yeah? Can we feel that words and say together? Difficult, challenging, embarrassing. Then? Okay, uncomfortable, anxiety provoking. Then? How do you say stressful? Stressful, right? Then? Upsetting, tiring, confusing, saddening, repetitive. Okay? You get the energy and reactions of this word. Can you just check this? Can you read this aloud? How are you happy? You ask me, no? Ma'am, are you happy? Please ask me someone. Are you happy, ma'am? Yeah, I'm happy. Do I look happy? Yeah. If you're going to say, I'm happy, say it that way. Yeah? I'm happy. I'm loved. Then. I'm blessed. I'm healthy. I'm positive. I'm talented. I'm gifted. I'm creative. I'm assertive. Can you see the change in it? The difference. Words have their own energy and reactions. And in a day, we speak so many words. And the words that we speak always brings in the energy. So conscious communication for our understanding is using mindful communication, because what we tell ourselves and what we tell others matters. And mindfully using empowering words and encouraging and supporting words is important. We have what is known as negativity bias, meaning to say, if someone walks into this hall, you are walking into this hall, you have a lot of friends. All the friends look at you and wave, right? But there is one person in the last row, gives you a very strong frown. But by then, you can't go and find out why that person did that. You go back and sit. For the next 1 hour, what will you be thinking? Why did that person frown at me? Yes or no? Yes? Why did that person? What happened? Yesterday also I called. All these things will go in your mind. Yeah? Why is that? Around now, 99 of them waved at you and smiled. Why is that? We will not think about the ones who said hi, smiled at us. And why is that? We will only think about the person who frowned. This is called as a natural negativity bias, because the brain that has developed from the Stone Age man, during the Stone Age, the brain was on surveillance, survival mode, always looking out for something that is not okay. Somebody will come and attack, so being frightened about the nature, if there will be an enemy group that will come and attack. So brain has been conditioned that way. That is why even if we have so many good things, what is not there is something that will always strike our attention. So researchers say that moving from this negativity bias to consciously thinking about metacognition. Metacognition is thinking about thinking. The survival mode of thinking about things that pull you down, that are limiting, that are disempowering, are things that are in the limbic system. Limbic is the animal brain that is here. Okay? And what happens is, from here, when you want to just shift, I want to change the mood of my mind. Okay? Let me focus on the people who smiled at me. That metacognition comes to the prefrontal cortex. Prefrontal cortex is the place where you will be able to have higher thinking capacities. So, okay, that person frowned at me, maybe during the break, let me find, but I was so happy to look at people smiling at me. Usually they don't do, but they were smiling. This re-scripting of thought, re-scripting of the narration is mindful communication. What you tell to yourself and what you tell others matters, right? I speak with some evidence, right? You have Dr. Masaru Emoto, who was a Japanese researcher. You may also check on his works on his website. He has made experiments on the power of words on water. He did a 30-day experiment where he took some cooked white rice and put it into a bottle with water, into 2 bottles. Under one bottle, he had written thank you. And under another bottle, he had written you fool. And every day in the experiment, what he did was, every day he used to go and thank the first bottle, say good things, empowering words, high energy words for 30 days. And for the next bottle, what he did was, he used to say, you fool, you're good for nothing. All that he wanted to scold, he used to scold. And after 30 days, what happened was, this bottle with the first one where there were positive and optimistic words, that bottle's rice was white and fluffy. The other one became brown and it was full of fungus. And he has noted all this in his book. And also, he used to fill glasses of water like this, right? And he used to write words like gratitude, love, kindness, I hate you, you fool, under every glass. And he used to speak to it. And then he used to freeze it in the freezer. And the frozen ice cubes will have a design like snowflakes, crystals. And the designs that had high energy, positive words, had beautiful designs. I'll show it to you. And the words that were not complimenting, that were disempowering, those words had very bad kind of crystals. They didn't have any design at all. So that is a power of how words, and our body is made of 70% of water. Our body is made of 70% of water. So the words we tell ourselves and the words we tell others really matters. He gives a very beautiful quotation. Words are the vibration of nature. Therefore, beautiful words create beautiful nature. Ugly words create ugly nature. This is the root of the universe. So the power of words has been expressed. So you will now tell me from your understanding, if you can read all these sentences. These are some of the cliched sentences, that which we tell, that which we hear. What kind of awareness or what kind of energy will it create? Is it visible? Yeah. Silence, is it a class or a fish market? Are these common here also? Yeah. It is a kind of hereditary language that we always have. Yeah. Why are you laughing? Tell us. We will also laugh. Why do you come to here at school? You have it as college. Then if you want to talk, please go out and talk. Don't disturb others. We hear it, we say it, right? Until the last. What you did the whole day. Why didn't you finish your work? Last but not the least, your juniors are better than you, or your seniors are better than you. Yes, you can go through these lists. I just want us to reflect, what kind of energy and reactions will these sentences have on people's mind? Will it be something that is optimistic, Or will it be a kind of a changed behavior? Or will it be something that the student withdraws or the learner withdraws? This can happen even among teachers when each one tells the other. The power of communication matters a lot. So I told you I'll show you pictures of words, the crystals that Masaru Emoto did. When he crystallized, when he froze the water, which was written as gratitude, you had that beautiful image. Okay? Next was, you are beautiful, is even more beautiful there, right? Next one is, you fool, had this kind of formation, eyes formation. These you can check on his website as well. And I will kill you. Next one. Okay? It has no formation at all, right? Next is, thank you. Next is truth. Can you see the visible change? Water absorbs the energy, and our body has 70% of water. What we listen to every day, what we tell ourselves every day, what we tell others every day will be creating all these designs in us. Which of these designs do we want to hold is a question and our choice. So, in order to move from this don't language or limiting language or a kind of a negative bias to metacognition, to uplifting language and to language which will empower people, there are two ways that we can do it. I'm just giving you references from Martin Buber of how to do it and the NLP at effect and at cost of how you can, what is the way you can do it. So this is Martin Buber. He's an Austrian Israeli philosopher and he's known as a philosopher of dialogues. He says in our everyday communication, the para-language that we use, we all know as English literature students and English language learners that whatever we speak, the verbal communication is only 7%. The rest of the 93% is our para-language, our tone, our intonation, our body language, the eye contact, the kinesthetics that we follow. So based on that, he says, there are two kinds of language that we use. One is I, it, the other one is I, thou. When we use I, it language, what happens is we objectify the person. This is the kind of language that we might unconsciously use it when we meet vendors, okay, when we buy things from a stall. We ask them, Anna, how much is this? Okay, if you go to a store where you want to buy clothes, I want a pink color dress, you bring down everything, then you'll say, you won't talk to that person, but you will use that person in the social role. We will not call them by name, we will not have any interaction with them. But we will only, for example, when you go to a hotel, the person can come and tell you, we have puri, idli, puttu and kadla curry, all these things. We will not even look at the person, we'll ask for a menu that is not there. The person will come and have an eye contact and serve. Maybe most of the time we don't really understand that communication. That is an I-it communication. So if there is an I-it communication in the classroom between the teacher and the student or among students, among peer groups, learning does not happen because it's very superficial and impersonal. I, thou. Thou is an archaic word for God. When we are able to look at someone for the God in them, we relate with them. One of the finest examples would be Abdul Kalam. Abdul Kalam, he would speak the same to a watchman at the gate and he would speak the same to a scientist in ISRO. The way he would communicate, the respect, the way he would relate with that person will be an I-thou communication. So when we follow I-thou communication, we will always use conscious communication and we build meaningful relationship and learning. Now, we have what is called as at effect and at cause. So maybe I'll take another 5 minutes further. Yeah. So I just want you to draw attention to this. Can you see the first sentence? Our education system is at fault, so what can I do about it? The second sentence is, the education system may be at fault, but as a teacher, I can bring in a change in my classroom. Both are talking about the same situation, but the first one is called as at-effect language, where it is limited by what happens and will not take responsibility. Wherein the second sentence is called an at-cause language, which takes responsibility. Although this is the situation, I will try to make an effort to change it. So this at-effect and at-cause will be a re-scripting of what has to be done. For example, can you just see this? I am fat because it is hereditary. It is an at-effect language. If you have to re-script it, we need to say, I am fat. Although it is hereditary, I will work on it through proper diet and exercise. So re-scripting from an at-effect to at-cause will always bring in a change. So as I was telling you, words have power, and what we tell ourselves and what we tell others really matter. For that, I have given you some kind of experiments, some research evidences. Here I am just going to draw your attention for some kind of a personal exercise, and with that, in another 2 minutes, we'll complete. If you would cooperate, you can just gently close your eyes and just listen to what I have to tell you, and you can visualize. Yes, suppose you sleep, don't worry, I'll wake you up. Okay, now enjoy closing your eyes. Please close your eyes and imagine that you are walking through a forest. The forest is dense, green, beautiful, and you can smell rain because it had just drizzled. And you can also hear the water gurgling by, the chirping of the birds. The plants and trees are gently swaying, and there is a wisp of fresh air. And you're just walking towards a big waterfall. And in front of you, you are able to see a beautiful waterfall. It's so beautiful that you're awestruck. You're standing there for some time, listening to the sound, seeing it. And then beside the waterfall, there is a black monkey. I don't want you to see that black monkey. Please don't see the black monkey. Don't see the black monkey. Gently open your eyes. Is there anyone who saw the black monkey? Justin sir says yes. Many hands are going up. Yeah? I'm sure all of us saw the black monkey, but I told you, don't see the black monkey. Yes? Our brain cannot calibrate or understand don'ts. When we say to someone, don't do this, don't talk like this, don't is not there. That's the time people start doing what we don't want them to do. I hope you really accept that point here. So in doing so, I would want you to just tell me, how can you recreate this? These are don't languages. I want you to recreate it. Suppose you are telling your friend, or the teacher is telling the student, or somebody is telling someone, you always don't study. This is what they do. What do you want them to do? How can you recreate this? You always don't study? How can we recreate this? Can anyone try? If you make an effort, you will study. Yes? And you'll have to tell the truth. You can't say you're studying well when the person is not studying. Okay? Change from the don't to the do language requires a lot of effort. Let's try the next one. Repeatedly, I'm telling you that you will fail because you are lazy. This is a don't language. So how do we change it into a do language? Anybody wants to try? Repeatedly, I'm telling you that you would succeed if you start focusing. Can you see the change? And we are always used to don't language. Remember, change is a conscious effort. If you can put your hands together like this. Can you put your hands together like this? Can you let me know which thumb is up? Left. Is it left for everyone? For some it will be right. Okay, for some it will be left. It's fine. Both are right, okay? Even if it's left, it is right, okay? So now, I want you to open your hands like this, change it. If your left thumb was up, put your right thumb up. If your right thumb was up, change it together, all together. All together you change, the opposite side. How is it? Uncomfortable? Yes? Is it uncomfortable? Remember, change is uncomfortable. These are a pair of hands with which we've been here for years together, but a conscious change is uncomfortable. May I request you to put your hands together in the opposite direction at least 10 times. In the opposite direction, can you just consciously focus and do it 10 times? When you do it 10 times, slowly and consciously, you will get used to it. Change is uncomfortable. Change requires a conscious effort, and change is possible even if it is uncomfortable through conscious effort and practice. Fine? With that, I would want you to try this one. This you would have heard so many times. We would have told so many times. This class is mischievous. We don't want that class to be mischievous. I can't go and say don't be mischievous, because you remember that black monkey? Black monkey will come and sit there. You understand that? So even in the Bible, when there was darkness, God never said, let there be no darkness. He said, let there be light, and there was light. Yes? In that way, what would be the reconstructed sentence from don't to do? This class is very mischievous. I can't go and tell in my class, which is very mischievous, you're very good. I can't go and tell. But what do I want them to do? This is the way. I want this class to be well behaved. This is the restructure of the sentence. Last one. Don't talk, don't shout. This you can try. What will you say? The answer is, be silent, discuss softly. That would be the right way to say. So I hope the second part of the conscious communication is to mindfully speak empowering, enabling words. And as a 21st century teacher, it is important that we create connections in the classroom, we give choices and options, and focusing from negativity bias and moving to metacognition, practicing gratitude will always empower a classroom. And knowing is different from doing. And I'm sure you have a cup full of good words. You are sitting next to your friends. Can you just tell the friend who is sitting next to you, or the person who is sitting next to you, can you share a word of appreciation? I wanted to tell you this. I've always thought you are very intelligent. You have to tell what is there. Okay, don't imagine and tell. Can you share a word of positive affirmation to the person who is sitting next to you? If the person is new, you can tell, I'm glad to know more about you. Can you just take that 1 minute and tell something positive to the person sitting on either of your side, and then we close? I can see more smiles and open eyes now. That's the power of words, when we consciously use it. And it does not require any amount of expenditure. It is just the motivation and an inclination. Yanala Vanzat says, we language ourselves every day. What we tell ourselves and what we tell others matters a lot. And Joel Austin says, instead of being trapped by your words, you will feel propelled by your words. The words that you can say. I've also asked Dr. Viju to share an e-material with you. I think he would give it to you as a handout or as a soft copy. There are a list of words which you can use it for affirming and affirmation. When you start doing it, the way you communicate, the way you learn really grows. And thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for patiently listening. And what happens is when we consciously use our words in the classroom as learners, what happens is, even though you are in the class unplugged version, right? When you consciously communicate and connect, and there are people who are plugged in but the switch is off as learners, and there are students who are plugged in and switched on, but we do not know if the current is on. That is also there. That's a different kind of person. And an inspired student will plug in, okay, switch on, and will connect for learning. And I would also like to say that if you want to hear more on this, you can visit my Voices and Whispers YouTube page. Towards the end, you have Happy Learning with MJ. More content. For want of time, I cut down. The second one, where you have the video recreating the positive narrative, you have more content on this. So thank you very much. These are the works that I had used for my reference here. Thank you for the opportunity. Have a blessed day.
So now the forum is open for discussion, so the audience can raise their queries now. Any questions? You have a question? I was asking them to audience to ask queries.
Hi, ma'am. Your session was so engaging and creative.
Thank you.
My question is, as you said, this 21st century, teaching in this 21st century is so challenging. And you said that we need to, as a teacher, we need to adopt so much multimodality method in teaching. So can you please share what are the multimodality methods which you adopted in your students, and can you please share the funny experience which you had from that?
Okay, thank you for the question. Part of my presentation, I had given the list of methods that I usually use in the classroom. And funny things, yeah, I will try to recollect. What I have seen in them is even the most diffident of student had come out with some kind of expression. Because I did not want them to be very correct in English. I just wanted them to really express themselves. That part I have seen. Even the most silent student in the class, for me, each one has to perform in the class. Each one has to really participate in the class over a period of time in a semester, not every day, right?
How do you increase the silent students into the class?
If you had watched my presentation, for each class, I take some kind of methodology. For example, I explained to you, I use dumb charades. I will take the silent students, ask them to do the actions for words that they have to learn. Okay, they come in front, they start doing the action, and the rest of the class will find out what it is. So what happens in the whole process, the fear of engagement goes away. And when there is a kind of an acknowledgement that comes from the class, they open up. Rather than telling, you're very silent, you're not talking, okay? I put them into various positions where it happens. And since you asked me one funny kind, this came up my mind. I spoke to you about the coffee house seminar. Coffee house seminars are English seminars where we have Greek philosophers meet, where you have Plato, Aristotle, Longinus, Horace, everyone, Quintilian, all coming up. So there was one student who was very good in Tamil. So I'll always ask them, you will have to name your coffee house. You will have to bring in real coffee, have coffee and converse. So they get very excited about this experience. One student said, ma'am, why should we have coffee house, ma'am? Coffee is for the British. We are tea lovers. I'm going to have it in Tamil. Namma Uru tea kada. I hope you understand. Namma Uru tea kada is like my place tea shop. Okay, in Tamil. So if you see, this was one of the notorious student in the class, but when you give them the option, they want to create something. The notorious, the silent, all of them want to be seen and wanted. For that, they create something. When we give them space at different levels, put them into these kinds of activities, somewhere over a period of time, the ice breaks. I won't say today I do it, I get the result. It is over a period of time. You need to work with them for a semester consistently and constantly. I hope that helps you. Okay. Thank you for the question.
Any more questions?
If there are any observations also, because this is something, a big paradigm shift. Easier told than done. You can also say, ma'am, whatever you say, maybe it is easy to listen, but it is not easy to practice. If you want to challenge the topic also, you can tell. We can have some healthy discussion on that. Nothing more? Okay.
Thank you all for your queries and everything. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am, for such an enlightening session on the topic, the 21st century teacher and conscious communication. The way you highlighted conscious communication in empowering students' attitude was impeccable, and the discourse on classroom management by shifting to multiple modalities was illuminating. Once again, we thank you for your engaging, encouraging, and enjoyable session. Thank you and have a great day. Now, for the attention of the participants, we are breaking the session for a refreshment for 15 minutes. The next session would start at 11:05. I request all the participants to be back by then. Thank you.